Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank both of you for being here. Ms. Shelton, I'm sure you've been covering or watching some of the articles that have been coming out with respect to your record years ago compared to now. And there does seem to be a pattern of total flip-flopping. If you look at the period of time when Bernanke and Yellen were the head of the Federal Reserve, you were for you criticized them for, let's see, cheap money, fake economy. You were a deficit hawk. You wanted tight money then. In 2011, you criticized the Federal Reserve for weakening the dollar to improve our exports in order to improve our economy back home. The only pattern that I see here is a political one, not an economic one. And I think that's what concerns a lot of people, because we want somebody on the Federal Reserve who's going to look at the economic facts and draw conclusions from those, not the political facts. And so I want to also ask you in that regard about the positions you've taken on the deficits and debt. And I've actually had concerns myself over the years about deficits and debt. But here's what you wrote back in 2009, which of course was still during the economic downturn, and so the economy was hurting. Obviously, economic stabilizers kicked into effect. But you wrote in the Wall Street Journal, unending fiscal deficits, unconscionable accumulations of government debt. These are trends that are shaping America's future. And you go on to predict that there will be flight from the dollar, our nation's money is being severely compromised, and it's going to be gloom and doom. None of those predictions proved to be true, did they?
I think it was a very unhappy period in the wake of the 2008 crisis that was devastating across the country. And we engaged with the Federal Reserve seeking monetary stimulus in extreme measures, going to near zero interest rates and massive purchases of government assets.
Right. And I think I heard an exchange earlier with Senator Kennedy where you said that if we had that kind of economic downturn, you would look at using all those tools. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you were very critical. I mean, the record's pretty clear. You criticized them strongly for taking emergency provisions back then. You said the increase in the national debt was unconscionable, even though, as you know, when you have economic downturns, your GDP goes down and your economic stabilizers go into effect, so there's more money spent on things like Medicaid. But I guess my question is, was it unconscionable for President Trump to add $2 trillion to that already unconscionable debt in passing the tax cut, which has actually now taken projected debt to GDP to much higher levels than what you predicted? In our annual deficits, the last year of the Obama administration, the deficit was 3.2% of GDP. In 2019, it's 4.6% of GDP. So my question is, in order to be consistent, did those policies supported by the president, are they unconscionable when it comes to our deficits and debt?
Senator Van Hollen, if I may take us back to 2009 to compare my consistency. The immediate fiscal response was an $800 billion package of government spending that ultimately turned out not to have a stimulative effect as we might have hoped, and there was talk of projects that weren't shovel-ready. We went to these extreme monetary measures, likewise trying to stimulate in the wake of this meltdown. There's a cost to that. For the years from 2009...
I'm sorry, you're just not answering my question. It was a pretty simple question. And look, we can all, people are entitled to their own opinions, but not the facts. The Congressional Budget Office's analysis of the fiscal stimulus disputes exactly what you just said. And my question to you was, is it unconscionable to increase the debt over the next 10 years by $2 trillion? If it was already at unconscionable levels back in 2009, is it unconscionable to add another $2 trillion to an already unconscionable debt? Yes or no?
I think we should always strive to reduce the deficit because it does put a burden on future generations.
See, this is the problem. The problem is you've got a lot of writings, strong writings, of a very political nature. And now your responses today are totally inconsistent with the positions you've taken in the past. The only thing that has changed is who's in the White House. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.